Hey folks, it's Steve here today with some more random stuff, and today I am back in my garage doing some upgrades on the Champion 196, and wanted to kind of share that with you, show you what I'm doing, and kind of walk you through the process. What I got going on is I'm replacing an old Garmin Echomap 93 SV. I've had this for about 6 years. I think this is like the first generation Echomaps. And I'm replacing that with the new Garmin Echomap 93 SV UHD and networking it to my existing 106 SV Ultra, putting a new mount on the front, and then also adding the Livescope. So not an easy process, you know. Seeing a lot of videos guys do on YouTube. They kind of show the nuts and bolts of how to, you know, how it goes together, but with older boats, things get a little complicated, and you have to do a few things, and just wanted to point those out to you so that when you go to do your own, you're kind of prepared for it. First of all, on the transducer, I'm swapping that out with a GT54 transducer. My old transducer uses the same bracket and the same mount, or at least a similar bracket, and the one I have on there on the back of the boat is metal, and the new ones here are plastic. So not using the plastic one, I'm keeping my metal one, and just swapping out the transducer on the existing bracket. Saves me from having to pull out holes and doing all the resealing and caulking and whatnot on the back of the boat. And I'll pull the cables through, put that on, and then I will kind of go through what else I have to do in order to get everything kind of connected, and then maybe I'll do a part two to kind of go about the power connections. When I get that done, I still have to pull some wires and get the new wire hooked up, but at least we'll go through kind of the steps on what I had to do to get everything kind of prepped and ready for the installation of these items. So I'll turn the camera around and I'll kind of go over what I'm doing. All right, so here is the new Echomap. I have it on my existing ram mount. This is the larger ram mount, and this should be fine. What I did have to do, if you look here on the back, the existing hole I had here that goes through the console was a little small, so I had to enlarge that to at least 1.25 inches because the networking cable that plugs into the back of the Garmin, and this is purchased separately. This networks the two units together. Requires 1.25 inch hole to get through wherever you're putting it through in order to connect that to the back of the unit. So I had to enlarge that hole. Coming up to the front, this is the old unit, which I have to do something with. So coming up to the front, or at least the starboard rod locker. So in here, this is where I installed the black box for the Livescope, and I put that in here vertically. That way I have easy access to the connections. And then right above that is my light pole for the back of the boat, and that fits right over the top. And one thing to be aware of is the screws that come with the unit are only 1 inch long. It's probably fine if you're putting it into a solid surface, but in my case, down here, mounting it over the carpet in the locker, and the screws aren't long enough, so you need probably 1.5 inch screws, and they're number 8s. You can also see that ground wire that I connected. I have the ground wire going to the front unit, to the box, and then all the way back to the battery for the ground. I still have to, like I said, connect the power wire there, and then I'll just have to be careful in the future about those wire connections. I didn't want to put the connections on the top because I didn't want to risk banging them around with the light pole when I put that away. All right, so moving up to the front, still got some work to do up here, and I'll start up here on the trolling motor. You can see I've already got the Livescope transducer mounted. The wire that is on here is pretty heavy duty. It's pretty thick. You can see here we have the Livescope transducer cable. I have the GT 54 transducer cable for the transducer on the bottom of the trolling motor, and then a third wire here, which is my hydrowave speaker cable. That's probably the easiest thing to do about the installation. Those run up here, and I have them inside the motor sock to kind of contain all the wires on the trolling motor cable. And then come up here to where the unit is. On the Champions, and most of the guys with Champions know this, that this old space where the original graph went, I have it covered up with a piece of C-deck. I have an existing light switch which operates this light pole for when I'm running at nighttime with my Gobi spotlight. My existing cables that came through here, I have a hole here, but this wasn't that very big of a hole. And then I have the Livescope wire that comes through here, and these two grommets. One of them comes with a networking cable. So this is the network cable that runs from the Livescope box to the unit. And then I bought a second grommet for the cable for the Livescope transducer, which runs to the black box. So I put a grommet on here and drilled two new 1.25 inch holes for that. And then of course I have the ground wire, which will go to the back of the Garmin here, and of course the networking cable. And then I have the transducer cable and the power cable already existing on that. I originally had a smaller ram mount. Here's that smaller ram mount here, and I put this unit on about a year ago on the existing mount that I have from my old previous Echomap, and it just wasn't working out. That smaller ram mount is just too small. So I got a bracket. Actually, my son had made this bracket, and I cleaned it up and repainted it to match the boat, and I will be mounting that up in this area here somewhere. Still trying to get that kind of adjusted where that's going to go, and then I'll have my hydrowave remounted there. The one thing kind of to keep in mind is when you're putting in these is the trolling motor cable. When you stow and deploy the trolling motor, you got to keep in mind of where this cable is going to fall. And in my case with the Ultrex, it's a pretty heavy cable, and it was hitting or kind of interfering with the bracket if I put it over the trolling motor tray. And I have the comfort troll tray, so I couldn't put it directly over the tray. I couldn't put it to the right of the tray, so I'm probably going to put it kind of offset somewhere in this position, and with the hydrowave next to that, and that'll be remounted. Originally my hydrowave was kind of underneath. You can see here where this old outline was in that area, and then the flat spot here was my ram mount, and took those off. Now the existing holes that are in there, I did squeeze in some sealant, some marine grade sealant in those holes to seal that on the deck. So that was kind of how that goes. So again, you know, the Livescope cable goes from the transducer down through here to the black box, and then the networking cable comes from the black box up here to the transducer. Actually, that's the networking cable from the other unit, and then this networking cable here, which is small enough to fit through my existing hole, goes from the black box to the back of the unit. It's a lot of wires that go on, and then once this is all done, I'm gonna have to get some wire tamers or something to kind of wrap all those wires up together and clean them up. But you do need, like I said, for these bigger wires, you do need 1.25 inch hole saw if you're going to put that through any solid surface, whether it's fiberglass, metal, or other. And again, every boat's going to be different. So that's that installation. And again, when you put that on there, just make sure you check your trolling motor, you know, put it down and make sure that your brackets and mounts aren't going to interfere with that. So I think that's about it for now. Hopefully I have this all done tomorrow once I get the wires all pulled. Right now things are kind of a mess as I've been working out here little by little this past week. All right, so that should about do it for now. I'll go ahead and wrap this first half up, and then once I get the wiring completed, I got to pull the power wires and connect everything to the battery, and I'll kind of go through that and what kind of wire I'm using, and the connections to the batteries and what battery setup I have on this boat is a 24-volt system. So that'll be part 2. So stay tuned and check back, and I'll have that final and hopefully everything else wrapped up and mounted and ready to go. So thanks for watching. Go ahead and hit that like button down there on the bottom, and if you want to see anything else about the Champion 196, let me know in the comments, and go ahead and subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks.